What is the most awkward moment you have ever experienced? When I worked as a hostess, it was required to do a bathroom check for both genders' washrooms. Generally, the hostess checked the girls' washroom and the host checked the boys' washroom, but on this particular day, the boy host, Mark, was gone to run an errand, which left me to have to go check both bathrooms. I checked the girl washroom in under a minute. Just a quick look through the stalls and making sure the paper towel dispenser was full. And then it was time to look through the boys' washroom. I walked up to the smooth wooden door, knocked loudly, and said in a loud clear voice, "I'm the hostess here for a washroom check. If someone is in there, please let me know." No response. I breathed a sigh of relief. So far so good. I opened the door and stepped inside. And I froze. In front of me was a dude peeing in the urinal. I would have silently left, but the heavy wooden door slammed shut behind me, making a loud noise. He slightly turned to see who had walked in, and then all of a sudden, upon seeing that the person who had just walked in was none other than a girl about his age in a black dress with burgundy lips, his eyes widened in alarm, and instead of turning around like any other human being, he turned slightly so that I had full view of his stinky winky. A stream of piss came flying my way. Holy shit! I screamed, slapping my hands over my eyes, jumping so that I dodged it with my back was pressed against the wall, and frantically searching for the door handle. "Who the hell are you? Just shut up. If you heard me when I first knocked, maybe you'd know." And with that, I finally found a handle, and throwing the door open, I ran outside and hid in the staff room, hoping I'd never have to see him again. Oh boy, I was dead wrong on that one. I peeked through the window in the door to see him walk shakily out of the washroom and sit at the table with a bunch of other guys right in front of my hostess stand, facing the place where I stand. Bad luck. I eventually hid in the kitchens and avoided going to my stand at all until my manager came up to me. "Zane, their nickname for me, why aren't you up at the front?" I don't wanna," I stammered. "You need to be up there, hon, there's a party coming in a couple of minutes." I huffed and walked up to my stand, determinedly pretend reading the menu as a distraction. Trying to look anywhere that wasn't him. The hardest half hour of my life. When he was leaving, he apologized. One of his buddies asked, "What are you apologizing for?" He didn't answer until they walked a couple of feet away from me. She saw my dot thing. His face fell silent as he motioned to his stupid winky. It took them 5 whole minutes to leave the restaurant cause they were sprawled on the floor roaring with laughter while dragging me over so they could give me high fives. All the guests were staring while I had to keep a fake smile plastered on my face. I've never seen them since. Had just turned 19, still living with my parents, and was dating this girl who was almost 20. My mother told me that they were heading out for a couple of days to go to their friend's place. She usually did this just to let me know that I'd be alone in the house. I was always such a play-by-the-rules boy. So me and my girlfriend are out having a great time that night, things escalate and we take off back to my parents' place. It was a night of sex, but it was her first time. It was a good night and we both fell asleep. The next morning I hear a bunch of walking around upstairs and I realize that my parents were actually home. I heard my mother walk up the stairs coming to my bedroom, and my girlfriend, who was half naked, didn't know what to do, so I stuffed her into my closet along with the rest of her clothes. Just in time as there came a knock at my door, and my mother opens the door just checking in and to tell me that their friend's trip had been cancelled and to formally tell me that they came back home the previous night. Meanwhile, I'm trying to keep calm because I've got this half-naked chick in my closet and I knew my mother did the laundry in the morning. My thoughts? Oh crap. My mother leaves my room to head back downstairs and I open up the closet to see a very concerned person sitting there on the floor. She gets up and gets dressed and we devise a plan to sneak her out of the house. My job was to cause a diversion in the kitchen while she went downstairs and snuck out through the side entrance and then walked to where I'd later pick her up and take her home. It worked. She got out of the house and I made an excuse to suddenly leave, but something tells me my mother already knew what was going on and still played dumb. That person who I stuffed into my closet would be the person I'd marry several years later. So yes, it was all quite awkward. In college I had the double whammy: every female dreads, diarrhea and my period. I don't know what caused me to have the shits, as I oftentimes went to Subway for the $5 meal deal, but anyways, I had maybe $200 in my bank account and all of a sudden I had discomfort in my stomach, and usually I'd just fart and it'd be gone. Not this time. I was in the computer lab as I had no internet access at home and I had to quickly leave and go to the closest washroom to the computer lab, but it was closed for cleaning, so I had to hurry like hell to the washroom around the corner from the entrance to the college, again closed for cleaning. WTF. The discomfort was getting worse, as was the pressure on my rear end. I had to hurry through a hallway and find another washroom, again closed for cleaning. WTFH. So I got on an elevator and went up to the second floor, and at long last there was a washroom that was open, but just as I touched the door, the cleaning lady put the closed for cleaning sign on the door saying go down the hall and the third door on your right is another women's washroom. Go use that. I was like, I can't hold it any longer. I really need to go before I go in my pants. Her answer: too bad. So sad. Go down the hall, turn right and the third door on the right is another women's washroom. Well, I said, too fucking bad. I'm going in. It's an emergency. Shoved open the door and hurried inside to the farthest stall, but didn't make it. The pressure was too much and I pretty much soiled myself rather badly. Why? Because the bitch made it difficult to get in by parking her cleaning cart in front of me so that I had to go around. So embarrassed, I left the washroom, went back down to the computer lab, gathered up my stuff and left college and walked to Walmart before it moved to Quinn Drive, bought a pack of socks, a pack of underwear, a pair of pants, then went down the toilet paper aisle and picked up some Charmin wipes, then went to pick up some cloths and a box of Always heavy flow pads. Damn it, why don't you ever have super duper extraordinarily heavy flow pads? And a container of Sunlight laundry soap, and checked out via self-checkouts, feeling rather embarrassed, hoping no one could smell my nastiness. After checking out I hurried to the layaway washroom, went in, shut and locked the door, took off my coat and backpack, then my shoes and finally my pants, removing everything from the pockets and underwear that I put in the sink and filled it up with warm water, allowing my underwear and pants to soak while I cleaned up, and believe me, it took me 2 hours to clean up, meaning I missed every single one of my afternoon classes that day as I spent it locked in the layaway washroom cleaning my ass to the point I was comfortably clean until I could get home for a hot shower. I pulled my underwear and pants out of the sink, drained the shitty water and filled the sink back up with more hot water, and proceeded to continue washing out my pants and underwear until they were clean, and emptied the dirty water, then filled the sink back up with cold water and did a rinse to get out the detergent, then emptied the sink again, thoroughly wringing out my underwear and pants to the point they were just damp and safe to put in the plastic bag I had that I doubled. After I was dressed I packed up everything, putting my coat and backpack on, and exited the layaway washroom, left Walmart, cut through the Lambton Mall, through Sears to the bus stop for number 9 that I caught to Sears to get number 3 that I took to Wellington, then transferred over to the number 1 that took me home, and boy was I glad to get home. Got in the house through the back door, went down the basement and gave my mom the leftover Sunlight liquid detergent and my dirty clothes that she put in the washer to get thoroughly washed, then went upstairs and up to my room where I took everything else off, climbed into a nice hot shower and thoroughly washed myself off with soap, washed my hair, then got out, dried off, put my night clothes on and went to bed after chugging Pepto-Bismol. That was not only my most embarrassing moment but my most cringiest moment. I just got back from the Department of Licensing a couple hours ago. I needed to make a state ID, and so my dad and I set out to wait at the horrible lines and get it over with. What followed was the bane of my existence. After waiting for what seemed like forever, we finally got called up to desk number 12. The lady at the cubicle asked what we were there for, and the required paperwork. She took one look at me and said, "Can I have your work visa papers or green card?" I handed her my blue American passport. She raised her eyebrows and skimmed through the little book. I ignored the blatant stereotyping and moved on. It happens. She could have phrased it better, but there are many immigrants living where I live, so it wasn't a big deal. What she said next, though, big OF. She looked at my father, then back at me. "I kid you not," she asked him, "are you her husband?" I threw up in my mouth a little. We both looked at her with the "are you dumb?" look. My dad is like 1,000 years old, okay, 52. That's just plain messed up. My dad said, "No. I'm her dad. She's 16. The lady apologized and laughed it off. I wanted to dig myself a hole in the tile floor and move to Alaska. So, I've been thoroughly offended today. I'll try to stay updated on Quora after I tunnel to Alaska. You know those revolving doors? Like this. Picture that, only the spaces between the doors are much smaller. Only one person at a time. I was invited out to lunch on my first day on the job as a law clerk in her first year of law school. I trail behind one of the most intimidating partners, the guy who decides whether I'll get hired as an attorney once I graduate law school. By the way, he's not even going to this lunch. He's going home for the day, because he had just closed a major contract deal and could afford to go to Switzerland for 3 weeks on a Tuesday afternoon whim. Anyway, he gets into one of these spaces in the revolving door. I was so awkward the whole day and unaware of my surroundings because of how nervous I was. And my dumbass gets into the same space as him. He is a big dude, and here I am, riding up his tail. I can't leave the space. He can't leave the space. I'm touching him, he's pressed up against the glass door. We're both on this journey through the revolving door together, a journey in which 5 seconds felt like an eternity. Finally, we were set free. I peeled off of him, and he says, "Well, I'll miss you, too?" Didn't see him for 3 weeks. Has haunted me for 3 years. Source: a group of freshman boys. Time: lunch, approximately 12:54 on August 31st. Location: the front of my high school. I was trying to complete the summer assignment that I should have finished 2 months ago during lunch. Around 4 or 5 very clearly freshman students were sitting on a bench adjacent to me and my friend. They were being loud and shouting at an approaching buddy. Cringy enough. Then one of them makes some dumb comment about his corn leaking. Why does he have, like, canned corn in a bag? I feel like I'm missing something, and tries to dunk it into a trash can, failing miserably. A cluster of sophomore girls look disgusted and tell him to stop being obnoxious. They were my mood during this entire spectacle. The corn boy returns to his bench. He and his friends continue to be annoying 14-year-olds, and one of them begins to play a song out loud on his phone. This is a cardinal sin regardless of the song. I don't care who you are, get some earbuds or headphones for the love of everyone's eardrums. But no. This was no ordinary song. Upon listening closer, against my better judgment, I determined the horror emerging from the speakers to be a Minecraft remix of Despacito. Let me repeat. A Minecraft remix. In 2018. Of Despacito. I about died. Oh, and they left trash on the bench. I hate freshmen. I witnessed a situation that was as tragic as it was morbidly hilarious. Back in the day, I'd always heard that the grocery store was a great way to meet girls but could never really figure out how to actually make it work for myself. One day, I'd finished my shopping at a busy time of day, when the checkout lines were particularly long. and there they were. The couple directly in line and in front of me were chatting away. I'm very sensitive to the energy of people, and the sexual sparks between these two were a 4-alarm fire. He was being witty. She was laughing at every syllable. She played with her hair and touched his shoulder, and he kept glancing from head to toe. Tons of eye contact. When I saw that they each had their own basket, I realized that the two had just met right there at the store. The conversation was all getting to know you banter, layered with a sweet frosting of sexual innuendo. Standing only a couple of feet in line behind her, I was thoroughly entertained by the situation while they had no clue that I was even there. I just stood there and took it all in. It was so on, I was sure they were going to do it right there in the grocery store parking lot. On it went as the line moved forward. He didn't even realize when he'd gotten to the front of the line as the checker started ringing his items. The banter never slowed. The sparks only intensified. Then it happened. The cashier looks up to him and announces the total owed on his purchase. At first he didn't realize what the cashier had said, being so in deep conversation, totally engrossed in this pretty young lady. He simply turned to the cashier with a smile on his face and said, "Pardon?" As she repeated his total, his eyes widened, his mouth dropped. He glanced back at the girl one last time, then back to the cashier, then pulls out his wallet. He opened it up and with great apprehension, slowly pulled out a stack of food stamp vouchers. All at once, as he handed the food stamps to the cashier, I could see him physically deflate. It seemed like he was suddenly an entire foot shorter. At the exact same time, the girl recoiled, turned to the side and just stared at the magazine rack with a look on her face that quickly turned from shock to blank. The energy field that I could literally see surrounding them had instantly blown up into a mushroom cloud of disappointment. He finalized his purchase and slunk out of the store without another glance to the girl that he was so into just seconds before. In turn, she never looked toward him. It was over. They never acknowledged each other again. She checked out her bags with a disappointed look on her face and went out the opposite door. I just stood there in amazement at what had just happened in front of me. The crass, immature comedian in me just wanted to laugh hysterically. The hopeless romantic in me just wanted to cry for them. Just being a fly on the wall watching the world's shortest romantic relationship from start to finish. Be sure to like and subscribe for more Quora answers.